sim racing gets worse as you get better, and I'm going to explain why that is the case in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for subscribing and clicking the like button, and thank you for all the support we've had. Now, it might sound a bit counterintuitive that you'd actually expect sims to get better as you get better, and there is definitely a sweet spot where you understand how to drive to a general level, you can set your equipment up, and you have a sim that you're comfortable with playing. That is the optimal sweet spot with sim racing, where you'll have the most amount of fun. Now, where sim racing gets worse when you get better is that if you truly get good at sim racing, or even reasonably better than that average chunk of players, you're only making things worse for yourself. So the first way that you're making things worse for yourself is that you'll have already progressed through the majority of progress that's possible. So in terms of the enjoyment of getting faster and improving yourself, you'll only be able to make itty-bitty incremental improvements. Now, you might still be able to derive satisfaction from that, and it can still be rewarding if you beat that time that you couldn't beat before. But it's not going to be as rewarding as when you finally work out how to trail brake, or when you finally work out how to balance the throttle properly, or when you finally do your first Scandinavian flick in Richard Burns Rally. It's all turns into itty-bitty improvements. Secondly, possibly one of the biggest problems of being alright or actually fairly decent at sim racing is that you're actually reducing the amount of people that you can race against. So, again, if you're in that middling skill group that the majority of players are in, you're more likely to actually have a good race with someone. And crucially, you're more likely to be able to get a good race at any time of the day, at any point that you want to, because there's going to be more people to race against. Also, if you're in that sort of average skill area, you're more likely to be able to get a good quality race without having to do all that laborious hot lapping practice and setup tweaking and tuning and raw dedication just to get a race. When people get semi-decent, and even with me, I'm pretty crap at sim racing, but if I put practice in, I'm quite far above that general average bubble. If I put a lot of time into doing hot laps when I've done Race Room, for example, or spent a lot of time on many simulators, AC, tracks I know we've driven a lot on Automobilist too. If I spend a lot of time and actually get up to a fairly decent pace within, say, half a second of track pace, or even a second of track pace, if I jump in online, I will pretty much be in the top 2 or 3. And even in that top 2 or 3, it's unlikely that I'm going to be driving against those people, because there'll be the super duper fast person that's gone ahead, another car that's slightly faster than me, and then there'll be a huge huge void before the actual rest of the grid that's actually driving turns up. So you literally, by being semi-decent, ruin your ability to just do jump-in online racing, unless you do even more practice. Now, with the drivers that are actually really pro at sim racing, proper esports drivers that are just on another level to anything I would ever achieve, it's even worse for them, because in their case, even with iRacing, which is probably the most competitive online system and probably the most likely way you're going to find someone to battle against you in a lot of series, even with that, they pretty much will always just be at the front and absolutely destroy people, even in some of the more full race series in that. So they basically have to spend all this time to get super pro. They have to get super pro setups. Often they'll have people that literally work on super pro setups for them. And then all they can do is do esports races or organised leagues, where the racing in that is often not even the most dynamic of racing. It's often super duper sweaty, hypersensitive, bizarro, Guitar Hero esports racing. So even though they can't have good general racing anyway, the racing that they can have the only racing available to them that actually puts them with other people ends up being hyper sweaty, not particularly enjoyable racing, arguably. I mean, some of them, they are aliens, some of them do enjoy that, but from my personal experience, I actually know quite a few really fast sim racers, and they can't join random hosted sessions. If they just jump into iRacing, very soon they end up just winning all the races in like F3, IO4. If they do, another thing that happens for really good esports drivers is that often some of them will gravitate towards faster cars, so like the Formula cars in iRacing. Another problem that then occurs is that hardly anyone else drives those faster Formula cars in the actual high-speed vehicles that require much more immediate finesse and response. So they just end up getting more and more isolated. And as I say, I know quite a few esports drivers of very fast sim racers that they literally just have nowhere to race. Like iRacing potentially, but outside of that, leagues and esports events, they can't play the game that they want to play, so they can't even enjoy the game that they want to play. And the irony is as well, let's be honest, with esports in sim racing, the prize money is really not that great. So you dedicate yourself to this hobby and to being like super duper pro at it, and the reality is only the top like 10 esports drivers are making really good money. And then maybe there's 100 or so positions for people that can make okay money, but certainly not okay money relative to the amount of time they have to put into it. And it's pure sweat time. It's not necessarily that they're actually having as fun playing the game. Though there are aliens, and if you're a masochist, maybe that is fun. So maybe for the purest and most dedicated sim racer, actually the fact that it's got worse has made it better. But yeah, I'm sorry guys, I am pretty sure that being better at sim racing makes it worse. Lastly, another aspect that makes it worse if you're better is that you become hyper aware of the issues of each driving simulator. I think it's fair to say we do have quite a few pretty good or really good simulators from a perspective of using a simulator to train basic skills or just good skills that would actually make you way better at real-world driving, because simulators are typically more punishing than real-world race driving. So as a simulator and a training tool, sims are absolutely fantastic. But from a sort of competitive online perspective, or getting the most out of the sims, basically, when you don't even have to be an esports alien pro, when you get to a certain level, you really do notice where the sort of physics holes and physics nuances are, that are sometimes they're enjoyable, but often they are really quite annoying, and they're going to grate on you, and quite likely they're going to put you off various simulators. Whereas if you're new to sims and you're not played that much, you could jump in any simulator and you'd be like, oh, this is awesome, I'm really enjoying it, because you're not noticing those things that are massively off compared to another simulator, or some like weird, like using the curb to drift the car in a weird way, or some weird overly loose setup that's absolutely crazy, or some weird way of drifting through the corners for a specific update of a sim. You're not going to notice any of that. You're just going to jump in and drive and have fun, and you're going to be racing with other people that don't know those exploits or that way of driving, so you'll just be having actual good racing with them, as opposed to working out how to manipulate some silly aspect of the sim. So yeah, I can't make any more arguments. I think you have to agree with me 100%. Being best, or not being best, but being very good at driving simulators, or even above average at driving simulators, makes them worse. I'm really interested to know in the comments what you guys think. The takeaway from this, though, as well, is that driver coaches for sim racing and esports coaches, they're terrible people. They're actually trying to make sim racing worse for you. They're trying to take away that enjoyable part of sim racing, the learning experience where you can make the most progress and get the most reward out of it. They're trying to just nip it in the bud and get you straight to exploit driving. It's not quite that simple. They'll get you to just drive properly, but they're ruining sim racing for you, because inevitably you will get to annoying zone of not having anyone to race exploit driving in no time at all. So never do driver training. It's like phoning up Nintendo helpline and asking for support. You're ruining the game for yourself, guys. But right, that's it. I've upset esports schools. I've upset esport pro drivers. I've told you all to not bother sim racing. I've saved you a lot of time. Don't even bother do it. Well, do it. Just do it casually. Enjoy Forza. You know, you could perfectly enjoy Gran Turismo and all these other games. You'd be completely unaware. They're all perfect. Every sim is fine. Nothing to worry about. Just stay bad. And that is why I've actually crafted my skill level around being terrible at driving simulators, because I'm trying my hardest to stay in the bell curve of rubbish, but that's where the best racing is. So there you go, guys. what a ranting, nattering, completely off the hook video. Let me know what you think. I think this is a great conversation to have. I want to talk to an esports driver about this on as a sort of actual conversation. That'd be awesome. But until the next one, thanks for watching this one. Happy tea drinking, and goodbye, guys.